Call the budget meeting to order. I do not believe we had anyone sign up for citizens communication. So we're ready to approve the minutes for the Budget and Human Resources meeting on December the 16th, 24. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second. Were there any changes or corrections? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody against? Passes 5-0. Now to approve the meetings of the Joint Human Resources and Budget meeting on January 6, 2025. Can I get a motion?
Motion. Second.
Any changes, corrections? Ready to vote on it? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0. Now we're ready for the budget transfers. Phoebe?
Yes, the first transfer is from the clerk and master, and it is transferring $500,000 from printing, or $500. Only slightly different.
Got my attention.
I just wanted to make sure you're awake. Okay, so $500 from printing to periodics, and that's just to cover some additional expense.
Move to approve. Second.
Any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody against? Passes 5-0. Next one, Phoebe.
The second transfer request is just for a surplus vehicle. This is to get the IT department next in line for the next available vehicle. As soon as one comes available, then we will distribute that.
Move to approve. Second.
Any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody against? Passes 5-0. Next one, Phoebe.
The next transfer is from the sheriff. This is for the drug control fund. This is transferring $12,875 from non-reoccurring line to the lease payment for $12,875. This is to pay for the lease that was approved last month for the office space.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
The next transfer request is also from the sheriff. This is for detention salaries. This is transferring $200,000 from the detention salary from the deputy line into the detention overtime line for $200,000. This is to cover overtime that has been used and will be used for the rest of the year due to vacancies.
Anybody got any questions? I've got a question.
Madam Chair,
How many positions short are you in detention?
just counted those earlier today, and 50, did you say 16, I think? But that doesn't mean that we don't have names for the positions. I think we have probably 10 names, so I would say 6 positions without names. So when I say names, we've got people in the background process. I offered 4 jobs today.
Oh, okay, so you have a lot you're planning on, so you may end up not needing all this overtime.
Well, what we're projecting is to cover the overtime that we've already spent with what we expect to spend and still have a savings at the end of the year. So I don't think we're going to spend, when you're short-staffed, you're going to have more overtime, obviously. And so that's what the transfer request is for.
Okay. Anybody else got questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
The final transfer request is also from the sheriff. This is to transfer $300,000 from the sheriff deputy salary line into the sheriff deputy overtime. Again, this is also to cover overtime that has been accrued so far and to project what will be needed for the remainder of the year.
Move to approve. Second.
Anybody got any questions about this? Ready to vote? All in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody against? Passes 5-0. Resolution 225 to formally Resolution 12512, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to initiate a request for proposals for qualified organizations and to contract for the provision of a study to determine the effect of increasing the adequate facilities tax may have on the education impact fee rate, revenues to come from unappropriated county general fund balance. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Chris, since this is yours, you want to speak on it?
I'm not exactly sure why this resolution is up for review again by the Budget Committee. It was passed and then it was deferred by the full commission. If that's my understanding, I'm like, so it would be reviewed by the full commission at their next meeting. Would that not be correct?
What happened?
Okay.
Do we need to vote on this again?
You don't need to.
I did have, after we approved it the last time, there were a couple things that came up that I'm planning on making some amendments on this. One was that to kind of add a whereas, and I worked with Bobby on this, I don't have it in front of me, but to add a whereas to put kind of a time frame on it, to have it completed by September, so that we would have it in time to review for whenever we approve bonds. It's a possible other revenue stream and have that study completed. The other one was to also make sure that it includes all the way back to May 2017. So there's two additional whereases. One to have it completed in September. Another one was to make sure it starts in May of 2017, which is when we started charging the educational impact fees. And then based on that information and talking to Grady Tabor, who is one of the constituents that brought this forward, it was also understood that it might, because of the time frame, that might include an additional $10,000. So we need to increase the amount by
Correct.
60 to
And that
60,000.
these are something we can vote on before the county commission, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, if you're going to do those amendments, shouldn't we vote on it in the budget committee?
You can. You have it in front of you. I mean, you can make that motion anytime. There's nothing that prevents you from reviewing it again. There's no requirement that you review it again. That's the difference. You're allowed to, but you don't have to.
I think if we're going to do those amendments, we need to vote on it again. That changes.
Yeah, so I guess the
You want to make
proper,
the amendments?
yeah, I can make a motion to amend.
Second.
So again, there were three amendments. The first one was to add a whereas to have the study completed by September of 2025. And then the second whereas was to make sure it goes back to that May 2017 timeline so that we understand, what this would have looked like if we had implemented it back to that time frame. And then the third one was to increase the amount to $60,000 to pay for that additional time frame.
David, did you second on that amendment?
Yes.
Has anybody got any questions? We ready to vote? All those on the amendment, everybody in favor say aye. Anybody against? No. It's 2-3, so the amendment fails, right? It was 3 no's.
I mean, it goes with that the amendment goes to the commission with that no recommendation.
So I can do it again at the full
You can,
commission.
you can still amend it at the commission. This doesn't kill the amendment.
Okay.
It just will be reported out as, that does not go to the main body. It only goes to the amendment.
Okay.
Do you want us to vote on the whole resolution again?
It's up to,
Do y'all want to vote on the resolution again? I would like to.
I don't think there's any need to. We already voted on it. I mean, this is just a recommendation back to the full commission anyway.
I've done more study on it and I was going to change my vote.
Probably doesn't matter to me one way or the other.
Okay.
Okay, either way.
Let's vote on it again then. All those in favor of the resolution say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? No.
so what was the vote?
2-3.
Yeah, 2-3.
2 for, 3 against?
Correct.
The next one's Resolution 225-3, resolution appropriating amending the 2024-25 Health Department budget by $758, revenues to come from donations.
Move to approve.
Second.
Cindy, you want to talk about this one?
Yes, thank you. This is a donation. Part of this, I believe, is coming from the city of Franklin, but this is for suicide prevention. It is coming through the health department. This is just to accept those donations and to put those in instructional supplies and materials.
Has anybody got any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0. Resolution 225-4, resolution appropriating and amending the 2024-2025 lottery budget by $89,007.55, revenues to come from donations and memorials.
Move to approve.
Second.
Jessica, would you like to speak?
This is money from quarterly.
If you'll come to the podium.
Hoping to avoid that. This is money coming from the city of Franklin and our Friends of the Library and another donation for the Leapersport branch.
Does anyone have any questions for them? Y'all ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0. Resolution 225-5, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute a grant contract with the State of Tennessee Department of Military, Tennessee Emergency Management Agency, and appropriating and amending the Office of Public Safety 2024-25 budget by $36,286.15, revenues to come from Homeland Security, Urban and Security Initiative grant funds.
Is that a typo?
Oh, yeah, it should be urban R, shouldn't that be
And
urban? Connor,
Is there a misspelling?
urban.
It should be urban.
is it supposed to be
Area.
area or?
Urban Area Security
We're
Initiative.
just missing an A.
You want to speak on this? Oh, we need a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
So you may remember that a similar dollar amount came before this committee last meeting. So we had to actually correct the dollar amount. We made a mistake. So my apologies for that. But this is a grant that we receive, is a federal grant that we receive through the state. And we have a committee structure that helps decide how these funds are going to be spent. It's a regional grant as part of the UASI Urban Area Security Initiative project. So we have a committee structure that's shared throughout the region, and the committee came together, put a proposal together to buy essentially an ATV for EMS that will support things like special events, but also any sort of emergency where we may need to go off-road to go get a patient who's off in the woods or something like that. So that's what this money is going to be allocated toward.
Does anybody have any questions for him?
I just noticed that it does not require matching funds from the county.
Always a good deal.
Y'all ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
I do have a question, Connor, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
I just have to think of, have you gotten any written notification on the freezing of the funds that are coming out of Washington? Are any of those in your area? I know late Friday or Saturday night, several of us got emails reevaluate and see what's happening. Have you received anything with these funding?
We did reach out to the state. All of our federal grants pass through the state, obviously, and asked the question, and they've told us that it's business as normal until we're notified otherwise. We're sub-grantees to any of the grants that come through, so they would need to make it, they would need to hear from FEMA DHS that there was some sort of freeze on their ability. Also, all of our grants are based on reimbursement, so it would be a state decision on, even if they think funding is not coming to reimburse them, would they make the decision to not reimburse us? And thus far, they've said that everything is continuing as normal.
And if I could, Madam Chairman, follow up with Phoebe, have we received any information at all that may go through the financial? I realize he's a sub-recipient, and I appreciate you saying that. But are we receiving any notification from any source about our funding coming down the line?
Not this time.
Not at this time.
But it's certainly something that we're watching closely.
Thank you. Resolution 225-6, resolution approving a new part-time liaison position for the Williamson County Veterans Treatment Corps.
Move to approve.
Second.
Is Tracy here?
Maybe you can answer.
Well, Phoebe, you want to answer this?
Yes, this is for a position funded through the grant. The grant has already been awarded. We have the funds. The grant now has notified us that we have the ability to use this for part-time, to supplement part-time help up to 20 hours. Once the funds are no longer available, or if the grant is canceled, then the fund or the position will also dissolve as well.
Anybody got any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against, passes
Madam
5.
Chairman, I do. Sheriff, can I call on you? It's off the cuff, but it's on this same topic. With the current legislation that passed last week in Nashville, have you been contacted about I'm looking for the word, illegal aliens, illegal immigrants that may be coming in? And there was some legislation that came through that said they would be looking at city / and county jails. Do you know, have you heard anything from your association?
Only 2 correspondences that I've had. One was with Senator Jack Johnson, and he was asking me for input about the proposed legislation that was going to be heard in special session. I have not heard any further detail on that. And the second was from the district attorney, who had asked for the number of illegal immigrants that we currently house in our jail. I may defer to Commissioner O'Neill, who actually has been down at the hearings, or he actually lobbies for the Sheriff's Association. He may have additional information that I'm not even aware of.
What was the question, Mayor?
So in the event, and it sounds like Washington has passed it, giving it down to the locals are entertaining that. If that comes about, do you know how that might work within our jail systems, since none of the cities have a jail? Would we or the sheriff be responsible for these individuals, and how that reimbursement would occur if there are reimbursement dollars?
The program that was passed was, it's gonna be completely voluntary for whatever law enforcement entity wants to be involved with it or not. And then they had, as far as I can tell, they haven't gotten all the parameters down about how any kind of grant money might come back. But this is completely independent from anything that's coming from the federal government. There's nothing that's passed to make the state and locals do anything yet. This is just, I guess, in some ways preemptive or whatever.
So it would be permissible?
Yes.
Is that a decision the county commissions are gonna have to make in the jurisdiction?
Probably in the way that we get funds from the state now, pass through, but it's up to the sheriff to decide whether he wants to do that with the one, to be part of that federal program, and 2, that you couldn't be eligible for the grant unless you are part of that federal program. And but I believe what passed ultimately allows for the local law enforcement to apply for that directly to the state. But like anything else, there's some administrative type pass-throughs through us, I believe.
And so my final question, Madam Chairman, to your sheriff, if the cities, do they have to engage in that to send them to the jail here, or do you have the final say-so where someone in Brentwood or Franklin is picked up? They would have to come here.
I think that once they come into our control, then we have that sole discretion. I don't know. We're still waiting for direction. We haven't been, they haven't communicated the details with us at this point. Now, there's a sheriff conference going on later this week. They may discuss that in more detail. But as you know, we're not currently participating in the 287G program. And there's also a 72-hour detention program that's offered through ICE that we're not participating in now either. There are only 2 counties in the state of Tennessee that actually participate in that. To me, that's a clue. So we're obviously trying to educate ourselves and decide what is in the best interest of Williamson County and the citizens in particular as it relates to illegal immigrants.
I said that was the last one, but you said, is that the 2 locations that are doing it? I don't know which 2 they are. Is that about funding, or is it about the condition of the jail, the room, all that? I don't know.
Well, a little of everything, because there is funding involved, but and to some extent, those funds are negotiable. And just like with state inmates, it's a losing proposition. And we don't want to grow our population unless the ends, if the means justify the ends. In other words, if we're actually getting illegal immigrants who have committed crimes deported, then maybe it is worth that, but at what cost and at what capacity? And do we have the room to do that? And we've got to segregate them, and there's a lot of things to consider. So we're still waiting direction on what those details are before we can make an educated decision.
Well, thank you for addressing that, so we can kind of keep our eyes on it. And then when we get to juvenile, I'm going to ask that same question from the judge's side. When it comes to illegal children, how you going to deal with that? But I'll wait till she gets her resolution.
Thank you.
Sheriff,
Yes.
how many illegals do you randomly have at the jail?
It can vary. The request we had from the district attorney's office, I think it was somewhere close to 20 to 24 that actually had holds on them through ICE. So those folks were waiting to be deported based on the holds that were placed on them. So it just depends. I mean, it varies. Ironically, we had a crime where juveniles crashed through the gun store down here on Beasley here recently. And I think they aged from 13 to 15, if I'm not mistaken. And ironically, as I understand it, one of the mothers of one of the juveniles that actually showed up at court, we had ICE waiting in the parking lot because there was a hold on one of the mothers to be deported. So, it's more prevalent than you might think.
Thank you, appreciate that. Any more questions? Okay, resolution number 2257, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into a lease agreement with Transportation Management Association Group for the old Highway Department building.
Move to approve.
Second.
Kevin?
Madam Commissioner, Commissioners, basically this is the old highway building that we have leased out to TMA for a number of years. Their lease is basically up. There's 1 year that we're going to grant them here as we prepare for the JJJ transformation and where we're going to push and move people. That facility is going to be needed by county. So that's why there's the 1 year lease on this facility at this point.
Do y'all have any questions? Ready to vote? We did get a motion, didn't we? Oh, ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody against? Passes 5-0. Resolution 2258, resolution to permit the Williamson County Mayor to authorize the temporary sale of alcoholic beverages at the Agriculture Exposition Park during the annual Rotary Rodeo.
I'd like to make a motion to amend.
We
gotta get this on, okay, move to approve.
Second.
Okay.
All right, motion to amend. In the now therefore be it resolved paragraph, to remove the line that says, in a confined area not open to the general public. We currently, in years past, have had confined areas, and the intent of this resolution is to allow the sale of beer within the event, so not to the general public, the ticketed guest public, to allow beer sales during the 3 nights of rodeo.
Can I get a second on that amendment?
Second.
So explain that again.
So we have not, as the rodeo, since 1949, the Franklin Rodeo has been a volunteer event, charitable event. Net proceeds go back into the community. We give away hundreds of thousands to partner organizations throughout Williamson County and beyond. As part of the event, we have, in years past, had specific areas set aside from the rodeo main event area where patrons could purchase a ticket in advance that allowed them to go into that separate area and have alcohol while the rodeo was happening. But they weren't able to be in the seats at the rodeo. We had to pipe in a streaming where they could watch it on the TV. And so our sponsors that sponsor the rodeo, that allow that event to happen, it's a similar situation. They're sponsoring the event. They have to be segregated from the rest of the ticketed guests in order to be able to enjoy beer or wine or what have you. So we're asking this year that just for beer only, that we're allowed to sell beer to the ticketed guests at the event in the arena.
Just a quick question. So last year when I attended the rodeo, we had that, you guys kind of had that special area, the kind of the
VIP.
Yeah, preferred seating. Wouldn't that have been considered general public?
So that's one of the, what do they call it, a confined areas.
Okay, so that would be considered a confined area last year.
Right. And so my thought about removing that line is that, we're selling beer to the ticketed guests, right? The same way that you go to a Predators game and, get a beer and watch the hockey, or you go to a concert and, you have a beer with your show. Our rodeo competes against those types of events to have, sponsors and patronage and people to come. But our event is a charitable event, right? And so we turn around and give back into the community and, support people within our community from that event. So we'd like to be able to compete fairly with, some of these other events that are able to sell beer.
Any more questions on the amendment?
I do, if I may. I just want to be clear, so this beer area is separate from the VIP area?
So the VIP area sells other alcohol. So it's a separate room, right, set off from the building. And they have a TV where they can watch, what's happening out on the dirt. And they sell wine, Jack Daniels, and, some other beverages. This would strictly be, beer sold at the concessions around, I think there's 2 concession points.
Anywhere in the ag.
In the inside ag park.
Okay, thank you.
So it's still confined to the ag center, just within the whole event area.
All right, thank you.
Any more questions? Ready to vote on the amendment? Everybody in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Anybody against? 4-1 on the amendment. And now for the main resolution. Is any questions?
I have a question. Is there any type of formula or anything that you use, like how many people you hire for security?
Yes, so we already, because we serve alcohol in those limited places, we already have, the sheriff's department provides security as well as an additional security team. And
is that something that you guys do on your own, or is that part of like a formula or something from the Ag Center themselves?
Well, there's a requirement from the Ag Center, but then we also have additional on top of the requirement. So we would have and hire additional security.
Okay.
for that.
There was an issue there at one of the big wrestling event. Somebody pulled a knife on one of the teenage referees, and there was, according to them, there was no security there, whether the sheriff's department or private or anybody. So I didn't know if that was a per event thing or if that was I figured they probably had something set up to have, or many people you needed to have so much security, so.
I know the Expo has a requirement in their contract
Okay.
for security per a certain number of people, and there's sheriff's deputies that have worked the rodeo for decades, and it's we really appreciate them doing that. And again, you know, with this, we would increase the number of security as well. And we don't allow bags, backpacks, strollers, you know, things like that. Diaper bags have to be searched, you know.
There's a quick question, I guess, on the same lines as Commissioner Neal. So does the contract cover the cost of that security?
No, the Noon Rotary Club who presents the rodeo, we
Pay that cost to the sheriff's office and for the extra security. Okay.
Any more questions? Vote on the resolution. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna abstain. Do we have any no's?
No.
So that's 3-4,
I should probably abstain, right?
1 no, and 1 abstain. All right, Resolution 225-9, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into a non-exclusive revocable license agreement with City E-Waste LLC for the use of a portion of property located at various convenience centers.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mac? Would you like to speak on this, please?
Recycling electronics is very expensive. There is no income to it. They found a way to have an income, and I'm glad they have. For us to have the one household hazardous waste event in early May out here in front, somebody has to collect electronics. City of Franklin's been doing that, so that's what's had us covered. This company's also been working with the City of Franklin. They approached and wanted to go into a few convenience centers, so we've got the storage boxes that we had that we can start with, make sure it works before they spend a lot of money on containers. And then they'll accept some electronics, but not all. I'm not sure which some and what not all is yet. But it'll be at 5 locations: Noblesville, Grassland, Fairview, College Grove, and the landfill.
Does anybody have any more questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody against? Passes 5-0. Resolution 225-10, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into an interlocal agreement between the City of Fairview, Tennessee and Williamson County, Tennessee for the reimbursement of costs associated with software licenses purchased by Williamson County.
Move to approve.
Second.
This is just simply an interlocal saying that Fairview will pay us back for the costs associated for some software license that they have requested. We have a similar one with Franklin already, and they pay us back each year as well.
Y'all have any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody against? Passes 5-0. Resolution 225-11, resolution correcting county asset numbers previously approved in resolution 125-20 as it relates to declaring two-way radios as surpluses.
Move to approve.
Second.
Phoebe or Colin, you want to speak on this?
Yes, ma'am, that's me again. This is another correction, and I apologize for that. This is the group of radios that Nolensville had been borrowing that we are surplusing and donating to them in exchange for the double-wide trailer. Our team put together a list that included what we thought were the asset tags for the radio, but they were the radio identifiers, numbers we use to track them. So this is correcting that procedurally so that we have correct documentation on exactly which radios are going to them. Doesn't change the amount of the radios or anything like that, but just right sizes the documentation.
Any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes 5-0. I think 22512, that won't be heard. The budget, neither will 22513 will not be heard. So late file resolution 22514, resolution authorizing Williamson County Mayor to execute an amendment to the memorandum of understanding with the juvenile detention facility of Rutherford County for mutual assistance.
Move to approve. Second.
Judge Guthrie, would you like to speak on this?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for adding this as late file. We currently have been almost at capacity in our detention center for the last couple of weeks. I'll remind you, we just have a 12-bed facility, and currently only have a memorandum of understanding with Rutherford County if we were to exceed capacity and have to rely on another detention center to hold our children. And the cost associated with that currently in our memorandum of understanding is $175 a day. We have, because we have been so close to being at capacity, we've had some preliminary conversations with Rutherford about, hey, if we call you at 2 o'clock in the morning to execute our memorandum of understanding if we have 2 or 3 children, are you okay with that? And in doing so, they advised us they have gone up on their rate. So this resolution is just in anticipation of perhaps needing it down the road. We just have a 12-bed detention center.
Mayor, did you have some questions?
Go ahead, vote on this. This is outside that, but
Okay.
while the judge is up there, I would like to ask.
Has anybody got any more questions about that?
How long has it been this amount? How long has the current, the one we're changing it from, been the amount?
We've had this, Jeff, a couple of years.
Yeah. So,
This is the only detention center that we are able to even ask to hold our children. We do not have contracts with other detention centers. Now, we will pursue that because there may be a lower rate that we could get. But in the event that we need something immediately, we're going to have to rely on this MOU.
I'm sure it's just like everybody else, costs go up.
Mary?
Yeah, but last year I thought we had kind of looked at Murray County, that we had a memorandum of understanding if they wanted to bring.
What you're thinking of are other detention centers that contract with us to take their children because they don't have a detention center. So we do have several contracts with other counties. If we're not full and we can accommodate them, we will hold them.
And what is the rate that we charge other counties to utilize our facilities?
That's a great question. Currently, it's $125 a day, so we're a bargain. But we are in the process of re-evaluating all of our contracts and going up on our rates.
Okay, so it is possible that we could be charging somebody $125, run out of space, and have to go to Rutherford and end up paying $200.
We are not holding any other children from any other county right now. We would not accept a child from another county unless we had available space.
What's the longest you can actually hold them at juvenile?
That's a very long question. That answer is very long, and I'm happy to answer it. If we're holding them for a trial, our rules provide that it should be done within 30 days. Okay. So technically, 30 days would be the maximum time that we would hold someone pre-adjudication.
Okay. So in looking at those rates that we have with those other counties, do we have a time frame for when we might be reassessing those amounts and updating them to be in line?
Yeah, this year.
This year, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Judge Guthrie? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody against? Passes 5-0. Mayor?
Yes, Madam Chairman. Judge, would you kindly take us through the processes in the example like the sheriff said? where we had the kids on Beasley, and then we've had an incident over in Brentwood too, I think, that may involve some juveniles between ages of 13, 14, 15, and 16. What is our responsibility on those children as far as undocumented birthright? And I should have given you warning, and I apologize for hitting you with this tonight. But take me down how that works currently. And so you're laying out to us it's very possible that you're going to exceed your 12-bed capacity if we have any more incidents. And where are these children and their parents coming from? Are they gang related? What can you help me with without divulging the names of the individuals? I understand that.
So we are different from the adult system, and you're right. Our records are confidential. We also don't abide by the same rules that the adults do. For example, the sheriff just talked to you about the data that they've been collecting on illegal immigrants in the jails. That was part of legislation that was just passed by the General Assembly within the last couple of years, and they've just started compiling those reports for that data. And what I think he was referring to was the first report for the last quarter of last year from all the jails throughout the state. And so we had in Williamson County 24 that they reported to the state. We're not under that obligation at all. In fact, we don't have any communication with Homeland Security. So
as a follow-up, when you get a juvenile in your custody and they have to stay all night, we have approximately 30 days in which to dispose of that case, or he goes, whatever the wording is. And if we are incapacitated under this arrangement, we would pay $200 a night up to, like you said, up to 30 days if you can get it to court. And there's no reimbursable number that you know that no one. So the other question I asked, are these kids are they gang related? Are they from undocumented parents? Or would you rather me not ask that question? I don't know where that line is that I can ask and can't within confidentiality.
And so, but here's what I will say is that our cases are confidential.
Okay.
Plus the fact that I wouldn't necessarily know. I'm not even really required to ask that question.
Oh.
Now that may change.
Right.
But that is not.
That's not a requirement for you to address.
It is
with
not.
the children.
It is not. Now again.
Whenever their parents, if they're illegal or legal, that's not your job.
That's correct. Now remember, juvenile data is different from adult data, and it's a mess. So we'd be doing well to have an accurate count of how many delinquent offenses were committed in the state, much less how many undocumented juveniles we have. So, but the short answer is, I don't know. Or I'm not required to ask that question. That's not saying I don't, but I'm not required to ask that question.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Is that all your questions?
Yeah, I think I'm hearing from the judge and the sheriff and what we're seeing coming out of Washington that the lines are changing in this commission and the executive branch. We are going to have to rely on her wisdom and his wisdom to get these things done. And if apparently we're not going to have any reimbursements because you're not taking anybody out, I'm sure, with only 12 beds. You're not taking anybody. And so we're not gonna see any revenue, but, I mean, you take a few, you know, how many, can you say how many you've got in juvenile beds?
Yes, yeah, I can tell you right now. Well, when we were almost at capacity, we had 10.
All right.
We have 12 beds. Now, currently, we have 7, but I have 2 in Davidson County that are supposed to be with me, but they're up there on
Vacation.
on some other matters, but will be coming back to us. So that'll put us back up to 9, in addition to whomever we might get in at any given time. Now, I will tell you this, just generally speaking, when we get groups of co-defendants, which is what we have right now, typically from other counties, it can fill up a 12-bed facility very quickly. And in addition to that, put a real strain on your staff.
So, I do have, so the incident that happened on Beasley, I assume that was handled by Franklin. And how many young people were involved in that? Is that a question I can't ask? I can't. Was it more than 6?
Suppress here?
No.
You're being recorded.
It's recorded.
You're on
It's
recording.
recorded, it's recorded.
You just can't
I
answer.
just really can't. I just really can't. Because Zanny's sitting back there, and she's trying, she's
Thank you.
throwing down. She's going.
Chair, I actually know, Jason, I know I kind of look back at you, it's kind of the same situation in schools, right? You can't really ask specifically with regards to residential status,
Yeah, it's
residency status.
Public schools are prohibited by the federal rules from asking about our immigration status. We are prohibited from asking.
Rogers.
So,
We need you back.
I'm sorry, Jason, catch you off guard there. The reason I ask if it's a federal requirement is that there could be a possibility that that could also be changing where we are allowed to identify. Because to your point, Mayor, reimbursement, not just at the, judicial level, but also at the educational level is a concern.
thank you for your question. We are actually prohibited from asking about immigration status. We can and do make sure they're residents of Williamson County, but as far as immigration status goes, we don't have any records on that because we can't ask.
Have you heard anything about that? Because I thought there's so much going on. I mean, that it's hard to keep up, but I thought that was an area that they were going to allow you to start identifying.
We've gotten no direction from any agency
Okay,
on that at all at this point.
lots of opportunities.
You're right, things are moving fast, we're trying to keep up, but I have not heard that one yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
I guess I have a question for Judge Guffey. It's just, you're talking about you're almost at capacity now. What is the projected amount of beds for your new facility?
32, we were talking about that the other day, and there were several numbers, 32.
Okay. Thank you. That's all.
And those are, I happen to remember after you were sharing some stuff, those are, Judge or Zanny, those are segregated in different format than what we're doing under this.
To alleviate.
To eliminate some of those problems. So the consultants we have used have stressed very much the very thing that we're looking square in the face of today, trying to avoid as we go down.
And remember, that's the most expensive piece of our new building.
It is very expensive.
The most important.
Judge, I think you mentioned last time we were speaking about this in this committee, it's not just when you have co-defendants, but also you're segregating by, males and females, but then also age, so teenagers versus younger.
That's right.
And so there could be all manner of combinations there.
Very challenging.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Judge Guffey?
I got a question for the about the recordings and everything. So this has not been streamed live, right? This is recorded and then put online
It's
later.
not live.
Correct.
So that's, I think, part of the rules that we talked about. And there's some certain things that are not public open records, which is security details within the facility. So I would just encourage that maybe there's some things that were said here today that about staff and things like that might need to be redacted. So.
I'd like to move to redact the sensitive security information.
You can't leave
I
that.
can't.
You can't leave that up to the discretion of the TV producer. You need to be specific.
Well, then specifically about anything having to do with the number of employees and their ability to stop a revolt in juvenile, stuff like that, with one thing that hit me the most, which I appreciate you answering.
I think the commissioner's asking to redact the information as to the number of dorms, number of holding cells, and the number of staff related to that. Is that what I'm hearing?
The stature of the staff.
And that's just by statute, I believe, not subject to open records.
Security is by definition confidential and can be redacted, so that's not a problem. Rather, that would fall into the question of whether it was the security plans or processes. I'd have to take a closer look, but it certainly would be one that could be there.
Commissioner, would you be comfortable, you and Megan, since you brought it up, making a motion, let legal counsel hear this tape and redact those areas that are sensitive in nature? Would you?
That was what I was gonna suggest, not trying
You'll
to
make
put
that
too much
motion
extra
in
work, but I
second.
make a motion for that.
Second.
Now you can call for the vote. We can get that tape to him for his review before it goes out.
Happy to.
Ready to vote on it? All those in favor of redacting the information? Aye. Anybody against? Passes 5-0. No other questions for Judge Guffey? We'll let you sit down now. All right, Lake Powell resolution to surplus and approve the conveyance of a solid waste trash compactor and authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute all documentation needed to complete the conveyance.
Move to approve. Second.
Mac?
They call this a trash compactor. Most of you go to the convenience center and you put your trash in a compactor. This is actually a piece of Caterpillar equipment. It's very large. It's got big steel pipe spikes on the wheels, and it drives over the trash. And that's what the part is, compacted. This one was purchased in 2018 for roughly $440,000. The intent that it was purchased for never happened. We have used it some, but it's too small to work in construction demolition. It was intended to work in trash. So they tell me that this thing's still worth $40,000 if we get it to market in March. I'm trying to get it to market in March.
Does anybody got any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes 5-0. Anything else for the budget committee? Oh, yeah.
Back in time for